Go back and start from the beginning again.
Yeah.
And I'll try to talk. So this fitness tracker one.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were here and we were saying these private strings. What are these all called?
Data fields.
Data fields.
There's a few different terms for it.
Yep.
So whatever you think makes the most, whatever is more clear to you, like you can think about them as like the data that class has.
Okay, so
like these are the things that this class
that are
has.
These are
its attributes.
Are these attributes
Yeah.
or are these?
Yeah, they're attributes.
They're not functions or whatever.
They're not functions, no. And so like
So these are attributes that right now in here that are not. They don't have a value right now, do they?
they don't have what's called a static value.
Yes.
Their
okay.
value is dependent on a particular instance, like a particular fitness tracker.
Yes.
Would have particular values for these things, but this class, because they're not called static variables, they don't have a defined value at the level of the class. Like it's only when you make an object that those things have values. So the object has its fields or attributes. We'll just call them fields. The object itself has fields and methods.
So in theory, I could load this fitness tracker up with 1,000 different attributes.
Oh yeah, 100%. And those attributes themselves could be classes. So like you could have a class that had as an attribute a fitness tracker with its own attributes. And so you get this whole nested structure of classes within classes. But that's the thing is like the class file is just a description of it, but the object that you create actually is the instance. Like it has values for all the things that you can think of this class as like a scheme or a recipe or something like that.
I can
right?
understand how
I just
classes and it has variables and attributes and
and I just want the distinction. The thing I want to make clear is that there's a distinction between the class definition and the actual object. Classes and objects are like they go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. So like when you're running your Java code, pretty much everything is an object. Everything you're manipulating in your code is an object.
Yeah.
But like the objects, it's like it all exists inside a class, right? Like your class is like you always have a main class.
Yes.
It might not be called main, but it's going to have that method, the public static void main string args, the thing you just have to fucking memorize.
Yes.
But not every class is going to have a main method.
No.
So
this one
won't.
Won't.
No, it's just defining some behavior. And basically, it's just like, you would call this, like a technical term for this type of class, because this is very common, where the only thing it has is fields, and then methods to get and set those fields. And so it has like get and set fitness activity, activity time, and date. And then it has these two methods, the constructors. Mm-hmm. So like this lets you make, like here you can make a fitness tracker by specifying the different data it needs to contain. So this one here creates one with some default values. So when you run new fitness tracker like that, so like right here, what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So right now you're making an object called tracker. This object is of the type fitness tracker. Yeah. So it's a fitness tracker called tracker. Yeah. And it's being created through this constructor, which takes nothing in. It's just empty brackets.
Yeah.
So that's the no argument constructor. And what this does is it sets fitness activity to equal running, activity time to be 0, and the date to be January 1st, 2021, right?
Right.
Now, the whole thing with like getters and setters, like in here, you could, instead of doing it this way, you could write set fitness activity running, and this would be equivalent.
Yeah, well, we do that somewhere else. Just change that back now.
Yeah. I'm just that's just.
I do that over here. Don't I in the
fitness tracker? Yeah. And the reason why you do it up here, this boils down to the difference between, So right here you're setting it to 5.
Yeah.
Right. You're setting it to a new activity, and then all you're doing here is you're doing default activity by the no argument constructor.
Yeah.
And then you're just
now these two statements get activity.
Meaningless.
So you don't, because I was seeing the other one wasn't there, getting this fitness deck, so I can delete them.
You can delete these because, like, the way it works is it's running line by line, obviously.
Yeah.
And like these two methods don't do anything. Like they just return. So, oh boy, how do I? Oh, what did I? Oh, jeez, how do I go back?
Well, you gotta switch back between.
Oh, okay, well I just got to do that. Yeah, that's fine. So like these two things right here, they don't do anything because they're not using.
They don't do anything till down here.
Till down
right?
here where they're being printed out.
So you don't need them there.
You don't need them here now. And like
So you need 'em.
the reason you don't is because they're not being printed out.
Yeah.
They're not being assigned to anything. Like I could do this. I could say new fitness tracker, and there wouldn't be any problems other than the fact that now tracker doesn't exist. But this is also just a meaningless line because I'm not basically like there's nothing that exists past this line that matters, right? Like there's nothing persisting. There's no state. There's no change. It's just like you're doing something and it's ignored. So you can just delete it. Anyway, yeah.
So this fitness tracker, so we're making the tracker object of the fitness tracker class.
Yep.
And we're calling it a new fitness tracker.
Well, this is how we're creating it. The way you create objects is you have to use the constructors. And so
Okay.
constructor just looks like public class name
Yeah.
and nothing else. So like every other method will have public or private and then some type and then the name.
Yeah.
So like public string get date. This is going to make a string object, right?
Yeah, that's
And
what-
that string is going to be whatever the value of your date is.
Yeah.
So, but the fitness tracker constructor doesn't have like it's not a public fitness tracker. So this is just how you know it's a constructor is it only has one, it's only the class name.
Yeah.
And so there's two ways right now that we can make a fitness tracker. We can make it with the default values by not passing in anything.
Yeah.
Or we can supply it with an activity time, and a date, and it'll just set
Then
those
we-
up.
So this dot, what is that doing?
Right, so like right here we have this string this is the parameter.
This is the new constructor.
This is the
Or
second
the overloaded one.
Yeah, it's the three argument constructor.
Okay.
Right, it has all the arguments that we want to give it.
Yeah.
So this here is the argument or the parameter
Yeah.
to the method because the constructor is just a method.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the parameter and it's called fitness activity.
Yeah.
But wait, we've already defined a string called fitness activity
Right.
inside this class.
Yes.
So in order to disambiguate between this one, the
First
field,
one, yeah.
in order to disambiguate between the field and the parameter, we use this dot. So this, whenever you're in a class, the code is actually being ran by an object of that type. So like if the code is ever running and gets inside of get fitness activity, like it gets right here, that means that there's an object of type fitness tracker that its get fitness method or get fitness activity method is being called. Like if we do like right here, right? So tracker dot get fitness activity. That gets called, which brings the code into here. So at this point, there's a notion of this. And this would be, in this case, tracker. So every time you're in here, from tracker, you can think of tracker existing, and you can reference it by this. So you don't have to use this ever if you don't want to, because it can be a bit confusing. So but what you'd have to do is you'd have to call this like fitness activity one or something stupid.
Yeah.
So I do think that using this in constructors, like doing it this way,
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Okay.
And I think it's a really good way to do it. I think if you're going to do it in one spot, like in one constructor,
Yeah.
then you should, I think, do it in all. So like I would prefer to see it like this, just to make it more clear, right? Like we're assigning the same thing to fit to like, you know, like the constructor is just setting up all of this value, like all of these values for this.
We're looking at this value now.
This value, right? So we're making a new object, that's this, and we're saying this is fitness activity equals this. Oh my god, the this is and that's and so yeah, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in all of these spots. But like wherever you're setting it, I think it's good practice. Like
Yeah,
here,
it's
because
there,
fitness
this
activity, right?
activity.
Like yeah, like this is the same. It's a
And we're
parameter.
talking about this one that we're working on now.
Yeah, we're setting this
That
is
more or less?
yeah, and you can think of it almost as if there was
I think that this went in on the getter or setter automatically.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because there's again, because like if you try to remove this from here, it's gonna complain because there's that ambiguity. It doesn't know what you're trying to set to what, because this could like fitness activity could refer to the field,
same one up there.
or it could refer to the parameter.
Yeah.
Now, Java could have made it so that you can't name parameters the same thing as fields.
Yeah.
But they allow you to do it, so you just need to disambiguate and say this dot.
This fatness activity, so this one here is equal to that one up there.
Yeah, so like
Essentially.
the equality thing, obviously, right? So like it's saying that whatever value I'm being passed in, I'm gonna put that value in here. So you can almost think of it as like it's not like an equality, like these things are the same so much as it's whatever's on the right, put it in whatever's in the left. So whatever's in the left gets deleted if it exists, and it's just whatever's in the right is what they both are. And that's why like you might have seen like a double equals before. You ever see that one?
Yes, and that's
That's for checking whether two things are in fact
for
equal.
a Boolean.
It's
you
it's
know,
for saying if
these are
equal. Yeah, so it's just like
then it's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like so we make a new tracker, and he's gonna have default values.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at the assignment itself. Make sure I did it right. Question 3, right? So create a fitness tracker class that includes data fields for fitness activity, and I did that right. We got the 3 fields.
Yeah, fitness activity, activity time.
Yeah, so these are our fields.
Yeah.
Anytime, okay. And the class includes methods to get each field. And that's what I've done. I've got the getters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh, I don't think we need setters. But I guess it doesn't hurt to have setters.
in addition, create a default constructor that automatically sets the activity.
Yeah. So it automatically sets. So default constructor
this
just
one
means
down
the one
here.
without any arguments. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's going to set the activity to running, like we have, minutes to 0, the date to January 1st of the current year.
The current year. So now that must be a variable that I got to pull out somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think they specifically want you to use date object, not string. But that's something we can easily just change.
Let's change it then.
Yeah. So instead of having,
We'd have to import, wouldn't we?
we're probably gonna have to import. Yeah, but I know that it's date from java.util.
Yeah.
So I mean, pretty obvious date. But we're gonna have to rename this because now it's gonna.
So what you're doing here now is important.
Yeah, let me just rename this first because it's gonna get confused. Because right now date here is uppercase D.
Yeah.
So that's gonna get confused with the
That's-
date class.
Yeah.
Now it's not because it's just lowercase. So now if I want to just change this thing's type, I can refactor. It's probably type migration. I don't know I'm just going to do it manually. So I'm just going to type in date,
Yeah.
and it's going to give me a bunch of suggestions.
Yeah, but shouldn't I, because I'm just a simple programmer who's new at this,
Yeah.
shouldn't I go above the class now and import the date utility?
Yeah, you could do. Yeah. Yeah.
But you're just going to put it in right here.
I'm just going to do it. Yeah, because the way it works is like I'm going to put it in, and then I know that it's the java.util.date that I want.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to double click it, and then at the top of the screen, it's going to add the import for me.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
So like that's if you want to keep track of where the things are coming from just to get like comfortable with it,
Yeah.
then yeah, by all means do it yourself. But if you know that what you're looking for, and I'm assuming somewhere in this like
we were already
we were talking
told
about Java util dates, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, so we got this date now. Is that all you had to change?
No, because now there's going to be a few errors. Because see, all these things that we referred to previously as date, they're expecting string, but we've just made it a date, not a string.
Okay.
So
Now we need to.
the types need to match.
The types need to match. So this public date.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be capital D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it fills in, and then this return date, is that right?
That's right, yeah, because date is still the field that we want to return.
And then this is got to be a date here.
Yeah.
And that's from the utility date, right?
Yeah. Once you've imported it once, it's just gonna always reference the same
One related problem.
one related problem. Yeah. So that's just because it knows that we have problems with like date, the field. So if we click on it, oh no, it's because we're trying to set it to a string here.
Yes.
But let's focus on the problems here first.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So we got to fix the default one because right now we're trying to set it to a string, but we need to set it to a date, not a string.
So
So
I can delete this out of here.
just delete the whole string out of there. Yeah.
Well, we gotta have January 1st.
No.
No?
No. Just because that's not how dates work.
Okay.
So like with strings, you can just say equals then the string that contains those characters, right?
Yeah.
And for like ints, you can just say equals 0.
Yeah.
For most things though, in Java, you have to say new and then the type. So new date.
Okay.
So what we're saying here is we're saying that date is going to be equal to some new date, and that's defined like whatever values of date this thing has are defined inside the date class.
Okay.
So we can look in there, but I think the more helpful thing is probably to just like hover over it and read what it says. So it might be a bit confusing.
So it allocates a date object and initializes it so that it represents the time at which it was allocated, measured to the nearest millisecond.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever time it is in real life, when we make that date,
Yeah.
that's what time it's going to represent.
Okay, but this is not what it wants.
That's not what it wants.
No.
But I just want to highlight that if we need to set a value for something like any object that's not a string or an int or like one of those basic types, you always got to do something with the constructor.
Okay.
So new date. Now, I think that there's multiple ways to like make dates. I don't know how you guys would have been taught to do it. Because I don't want to just go out of my ass and just do some weird shit that's nowhere in your notes, right? Because then it's gonna look sus. So how do I search? Just Control F. Can I Control F this?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot. Well, there's.
Using the local date class.
Did you learn about this one?
I think we're supposed to have learned.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is probably a lot easier to do what they want you to do with as well.
Okay.
So yeah, go ahead again and refactor this so that we're using local date instead of date.
Local date like this.
Yeah. Does it exist? Does it know where we're pulling? Because let's see. That's probably gonna be an error. Java.time. So yeah, you have to add that import. Java.time.local date.
Add Alt plus Enter.
Yeah.
And that's smacks it up top.
That's up to the top. Yeah.
Perfect.
Right.
I'm happy with that.
But now there's still going to be problems because we changed it there, but we need to change it everywhere that our date is being called, right? Because it's still, the object is still a date, not a local date. We're trying to set it to a local date, but it's a date, not a local date. So it's very picky. Like it's very, very picky that when you're doing things with types, they got to fucking match.
We got an error here now in the set date.
Yeah. There's an error in set date. I think actually because of polymorphism. Oh no. Yeah, there's error in just set date because right now date still thinks date's a date. Mm-hmm. God, the fucking talking about these things gets so complicated because of the fucking fact that we always name them like this. So date's a date according to the like.
So this purple date, could we just call that today to keep it separate?
No, I wouldn't do that because your fitness tracker might not always want to
No, and
talk about today.
Yeah,
I mean, it might.
no, and somebody might use the fitness tracker and have worked out last week.
Right, and it might be like last week's fitness tracker
Yeah.
or something, right? So date's fine. But yeah, we need to change the type of date. So because we're not like let's just get rid of this and then that'll show you where all your errors are. Because we're not going to use date at all anymore. So everywhere that it's
That gotta be
red,
local date
everywhere
there.
it's red's got to be local date. Yeah. Because that's how we're going to define the time.
Local date. So,
Local date.
I just seen something pop up that was.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was going to help me.
No, I think it's going to try to get you to import java.util.date. I don't think it's smart enough to know that you want to do local date.
And local date here.
No, I think there's probably one more spot where we have to do it. Or did you already do it in the...
Over here?
Here, we'll worry about that next.
Yeah.
We'll worry about the default case first, because it's still going to complain that, oh, look, local date, what does this all mean, right?
Yeah.
So, basically, if you're making a local date, you can't call new, unfortunately. The way they want you, the way that the makers of local date want you to handle local dates is they want you to do it this way. Local date dot of. So this is what's called a static method because we're not making a new local date object.
Yeah.
We're just using the local date class and then calling it a method directly from the class. We're not saying local date today equals new local date and then doing today.of. We're doing local date, capital letters, .of. So, yeah, it's a bit confusing, but I think for the purposes of this, it's pretty clear that, like, the way this works here, right, it's clearly just year, month, day. All integers. So we want it to be what, like 2021 January 1st, was it?
Yeah.
So we can probably get rid of the trailing zeros because don't need them necessarily, but... So, like, now, we figured this out just by looking at how local date was used to figure out other dates, right? So, like, graduation date is local date.of May 29th, 2020. So, just by looking at that, you know, you can pretty easily tell that what this is trying to do is represent this date.
Yeah.
And so we want to represent this date, 2021 0101.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to use the same. We're going to copy paste the fucking use of local date of. And now we have a local date.
Okay.
Date. Maybe we can call this date. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure how the typing works because it's possible that there's a few different. But yeah, this is the weeds. Control. Function. Windows. Oh, dang it. Anyway, I'm just curious. Sorry.
You got the local date file open.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to see, just for my own curiosity, definitely not important. I want to see if there's a way we can convert local date to date. So, like, obviously a lot of comments, implements. No, you can't. Okay. Unless chrono local date's a date, but no, I don't think it is. No. Temporal? What the hell's temporal? What the hell is all this shit? Anyway, I'm going deep in the deep in the weeds. Where are we? Go. Ah, yes. The bottom of everything. Serializable. Shit. Objects, null pointer, exception, runtime, exception. Throwable, chrono, local date, string class, local date, serializable. Okay, cool. We're back.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, so now date is a local date. The default is set to January 1st. Was that what we wanted? January 1st?
Yeah. January 1st, 2021.
Where's the
Down, lower. Now we're going
a
up.
lot lower or
Well, a little bit. Not too much. We're getting up to them now. Number
okay,
3.
yeah.
No, next section, number 3.
Cool.
Right there.
The date to January 1st of the current year. So, I mean, right now it's 2021.
Right. That's what they wanted.
But, or do they want it so that if you run it next year, it's going to say 2022?
So
We could do that. We could
create
do
a
that.
default constructor that automatically sets the activity to running, the minutes to 0, and the date to January 1st of the current year. So you just typed in the year there, right?
Yeah, and that's the current year right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do wonder how much more difficult it would be to just...
Can we pull the current date out? It seems to me it wants us to pull the current year.
Yeah. And so maybe there's a way of doing, like... Maybe you can do, like, no year argument or something. There might be... I don't know, what's this going to say now? Cannot resolve. So one thing you can do, like, if you're ever stuck, you can just, like, click dot, and it'll show you a bunch of shit. Bunch of options for what you can do with the class. So the only ones that matter are the ones that have, like, the
Buttons on them.
the color thing.
Yeah.
Everything else is definitely not that important at all. Date. So maybe what we could do is we could say local time now, and then there's probably like a get years or something. Get year? Yeah, so there is a get year. So like we can take this. This is the current year, right? Because just now get year, and we could say wrap all this back up inside local date of. Pass this in as the year, and then do 1-1.
Doesn't seem to be having any errors.
And it's fine because get year is saying that it's an int, and it's just like the same way that this is constructed. Like fitness tracker has like a string, an int, and a string, or a string, an int, and a local date. A local date just has 3 ints basically that represent the time.
Yeah.
Right. So when we call get year out of local date, it's just going to give us whatever we would have passed in. Since we don't know what we want to pass in, we want to create one now, get its year, pass it back in.
So let's run it.
Yeah. Well, there's still going to be a couple errors. I think just set date. I mean, January 1st or June 12th, 2021. Set this one up. Set this one up based on the local date of that I showed you.
Local date of?
Yeah.
I'll try local date dot of. No, local date now. We can just say now for this one, can't we? Because this one is it doesn't say that. So this is in part B, right? So we're making the constructor. Then we do the test fit and the C, and it doesn't say anything about.
Okay, it doesn't say anything about that date necessarily.
That date there in particular.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So that should work, should it?
That should work. Yeah, let's just run it and see what happens because I think there's still an error, but
yeah, we got an error right here.
Yeah, date again. Trying to set it to a string. It's expecting a local date.
Local date dot now. Right?
Yeah.
Try running it again.
Yeah.
So the first one, it set it to January 21st. Then the second one set it to today. And the third one set it to today.
Yep.
Quite happy. That is, in my opinion, that's that whole.
Not quite. No, we didn't even do B correctly, technically.
Okay, what's B?
Because the way it says to do it is create an additional constructor.
For the fitness tracker.
Right, and the constructor receives parameters for each of the fields and assigns them. The way we've done it is we've used setters.
Didn't we?
We did the constructor, but we never actually used the constructor. I don't think.
This constructor here is the second one, is it?
Yeah.
So how do we use it?
So
the fitness tracker. This constructor receives parameters for each of the data fields and assigns them appropriately.
Oh, we did use it right down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this was just then unnecessary, I think.
That was I think that might have been a test of me
Yeah, but
This is the application that my test fitness create an application that demonstrates each method works correctly. So basically, the first call was the ones that we set up initially. Then the second calls are the ones that I'm putting in now.
yeah.
And then the third calls are the ones that.
Yeah, I think the thing is though, I think it's not asking us to make. So it's saying to create class includes methods to get each field. We don't actually need to have setters, so I'd say we just get rid of setters. So we don't need to be able to set the date.
Okay.
And we don't need to be able to set the activity time.
Okay.
And we don't need to set. Yeah, so we only need to be able to get them.
All I had to do was do the getters. I didn't need the setters.
Yeah, you didn't need the setters, and so now the test's gonna just be like, "Oops, I can't do that." But we can just be like, "That's fine." Get rid of these test statements.
But hang on now.
Yeah.
Isn't there somewhere where I got that automatically sets? In addition, create a default constructor.
Yeah.
But
So that's the no argument one.
Okay.
So this automatically sets fitness to running, this to that.
And January 1st. Okay,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is test 1.
Yeah.
Is that the test 1 would be like the whole creating the new with the default constructor. So default constructor tracker has the default values.
Yeah.
And then this is no longer valid because we don't have the setters. So we were resetting them.
Yeah.
Now we don't need to. So we're just going to get rid of that.
Get rid of that.
And now we're saying tracker equals new fitness tracker. And we're using the overloaded constructor. So now we're actually specifying that, no, we don't want the default values. We want swimming for 5 minutes now.
Yeah.
Not running for 0 minutes January 1st of the current year.
Okay.
And then, just printing them out and seeing that they look right.
Create an additional overloaded constructor for fitness tracker. This constructor receives parameters, and that's what we got.
And that's what we did. Add any needed statements.
Modify the fitness tracker class so that the default constructor calls the 3-parameter constructor.
Yeah.
Save the class as fitness tracker 2. So I don't have fitness tracker 2 or test fitness tracker 2.
All right. So start off by making those classes.
Okay. So
and I'll give you an idea of how.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go here, new class, and it's going to be fitness tracker 2, right?
Yeah.
And so this is going to be fitness tracker 2.
And it's going to be a copy of the first one.
So I can come into the first one.
And just copy this whole thing.
Copy the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Now,
Control C.
Think they don't want you to use polymorphism because they say modify and not extend. So we're just going to... I'm taking them at their word here.
Okay.
So yeah, you're going to have to just rename that thing to 2 to match the file. And rename the constructors because the constructors also have to match whatever the public class is.
So constructor 2. Yeah. Constructor 2.
And so the idea here is that we're going to modify the default constructor.
Which
so
is
that
this one here?
Which is that one there, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of having it set those values, we're going to make it call the 3-argument constructor. So see how this thing takes in 3 values?
Yeah.
And see how we have 3 different values here?
Yeah.
We're just going to pass those values in to this from inside here.
Okay.
So the way that looks is you just, this is just something you need to know, is you do this and then just open brackets. And then you say, so when you're looking at the constructor is also called this as a method.
Yeah.
So just got to know that. It's not necessarily intuitive, but, whatever. It is what it is. So the constructor here that we're trying to call takes in fitness activity as a string, activity time as an int, and then the date as a local date.
Yeah.
So we just need to fill those in. Just fill in the values.
Running 0 and local date now?
Or local date now to get year 1-1. But yeah. It's a mouthful.
Do I put
you put the actual string there? Right?
So
you need the quotes, yeah.
the quotes. So running. And then the next one is just 0.
Yep.
And then the next one is local.
I would just copy paste.
Well, just I want to try it
Or,
this
yeah,
way.
you can
Local dot
.of.
of. So you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
I'm seeing what it's doing. Oh, look, now I just got to copy that local date. That makes sense.
Right, because we need the year, and we
dot
need the
now.
current year. So .now is giving us the current date, and then from the current date, we can extract the current year.
Yeah. And I got to do the brackets.
Yeah.
And dot get
Year.
year brackets.
Right. And now you just need to give it the next thing, which is the month and the day of month.
Comma 1, comma 1.
Exactly. Makes sense? Because I know that when I did that local date shit, it's a bit, like, confusing. But,
And now I just make a new test one, right?
yeah, also get rid of the 3 old lines from that default constructor. Yeah, just get rid of those. Because we don't need them anymore, because...
And I don't need this bottom one anymore, do I?
You do need the bottom one.
Okay.
Yeah, because this... The way it works now is that this is going to run in, like, these 3 arguments are going to be passed into this.
Okay.
And then this is going to get ran. So this way we avoid having all the duplicate code. Because before we had 2 separate spots where all 3 of those values were being set. So it's like, just call them all the same way and just pass in the values. Because that's the whole point of making the method have arguments, is that you pass in the values that you want that code to run with.
Okay.
Right, so instead of having copy-pasted shit, we just call this from inside the default constructor. And that's a very, very common pattern. When you have a class with multiple different constructors, they do the minimum amount of work necessary.
See how this fitness tracker is not yellow anymore and the one below it is? And sometimes, like, once it clears out, does that mean it's good or I've completed it properly?
The gray means that it's not currently being used.
Ah, okay. And so this one is.
That one's being used because it's being used inside the gray one, even though the gray one's not being used.
Okay.
So it's a bit confusing.
So this public fitness tracker 2.
Doesn't get used anywhere because we haven't made the test class for it yet.
And we put this and brackets was calling this fitness tracker?
Exactly. Yeah. So this with brackets, so like this can either refer to an object or a method. If it's referring to an object, then you can do like this dot fields. It's the object that's the code's running on.
Yeah.
If it refers to a method, it's referring to the constructor. Or the constructors all have the same name. They just have a different number of arguments. So this with brackets just refers to the constructors. And the only way you know which constructor is how many commas are there? How many arguments are you passing in? So like you'll often see that for a class like this, maybe you want there to be a default activity, a default runtime, and a default date, but that you want to be able to supply any combination of those that you want. So you could have like 8 constructors, one with no arguments, one with just a string for the activity, one with just an int for the activity time, one with just a date, one with activity plus time, one with activity plus date, one with activity time plus date, right? And so then they would all call each other depending on which things needed to have the defaults filled in.
Yeah.
And so you'd see a lot.
Yeah, you don't need everything in all of them.
You don't need everything in all of them. They need to do like a minimum amount of work each.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually it's like you have a default one and a non-default. You don't usually have like layers of fucking different defaults because that just gets confusing.
So make fitness tester 2 now. Create an application to test a new version of the class and name it fitness tracker 2. So it's going to look like the same. Did we do the test one? Yes, we did. Fitness tracker, test fitness tracker.
Yeah.
So copy the same thing over.
Might as well, and then just make the changes that you have to.
Control C. Take all that out.
And just, you know.
And then put this test fitness tracker 2.
Yep. And then rename. Well, you're not using fitness tracker anymore. You're using fitness tracker 2. So all the references to that have to go away.
Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I can still just name this tracker, right?
Yeah. It's still just tracker.
And then run it.
And you run it, and it should still work. We should still see the correct default
Running,
times.
0, and swimming. Perfect.
Yeah.
Check that one off. Create a class to hold data about a high school sports team.
Oh, what about 4? Are you not doing 4?
No, we got to do 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
Okay.
So this was 3 that we did, and I've got 5 is Team Java. I started it, but I didn't know where to go, so I can uncomment and we can carry on.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's test team, right? All right, so team. So it says, create a class to hold data about high school sports team. The team class holds data fields for high school name, public string high school name,
Yep.
and then public string sport. And public string team. But these, I should make these private, shouldn't I? Because they're inside my class.
Yeah, I would make them private since the only place you want to set them up is in the constructor. You don't want to be able to just change them willy-nilly. Like, once you have a sports team, is it really going to is the sport that the team plays going to change?
No.
Right? Well, that's not even really what private-public distinction means. Really what I'm talking about there is making them final, but anyway, beside the point. Again, getting into the esoteric shit.
And now, so should I have getters to get the, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we need setters. Yeah.
No.
Just getters.
And then the public static final string.
So I would put that right at the top, above your fields. And, yeah. So the way to think about this, things that are static and final
Cannot be changed.
and it's
permanent.
the same. It's the same for all instances. So like every team that exists,
It's going to have
going to have the same. The motto is going to be the exact same, and so final means it cannot change.
Okay.
Static means that there's only one copy of it existing anywhere. So like when you make a team, every team is going to have its own copy of school name, sport, team.
Yeah.
Even if they had the same values, different teams would have copies of those objects. Like they'd take up memory,
Yeah.
right? Like they'd be like 2 files with the same text in them. But the static one belongs to the team class, and so there's only one copy of any static variable. So, but static final just means is the same, can't change. It's the same for every instance of the class. And
Perfect.
specifically, remember how we did like local date dot of?
Yeah.
That was a static method. So static fields and static methods you can reference by just the class name and then a dot. You don't need to have an object with a lowercase name that you call the thing on. It's just class name.
Okay, so here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying we read the question now. Include a constructor that takes parameters for each field, and
Include get methods to return the values.
so that's what I got done, right?
Yeah, you don't have the constructor. Also, yeah, the
Okay.
motto is supposed to be
Initialized to sportsmanship.
sportsmanship.
So how do we initialize it?
Literally just on that line,
Yeah.
say equals sportsmanship.
That's what I wasn't sure if I was going to do equals or
Yeah.
I got to learn how to fucking print type
Yeah.
and
get
then
there.
a colon, semicolon. Right?
Semicolon, yeah.
So now no matter what motto is set to sportsmanship.
Yeah. And it's just always going to be that. And if you try to change it somewhere, it's going to turn red and your thing's going to crash. I'm seeing some reds. I think it's colons instead of semicolons for sport and team.
Should they be colons or semicolons?
Semicolons, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I did do that. Who knows?
I mean, pretty easy friggin' mistake, right?
But I like how intuitive this IntelliJ is. Do you use IntelliJ?
Yeah, I love IntelliJ.
Yeah, it's beauty.
It's really
How
fucking
it
good.
really fills in.
It's really good.
Okay, so what do we do next? Write an application named test team to instantiate 3 team objects with different values.
And then display all the data, including the motto, for each object. Say both team and team test team. So yeah, we do need to make the constructor
In here.
in here for all those things.
So to be underneath this, right? We'd put it underneath? Or would we put it
I actually put constructors below the fields,
just
but
right here?
above the getters
Okay.
and setters. So yeah, my strategy for it is
So
static.
this is going to be public or private?
Public.
Public, and then we're calling this.
It's a constructor. So it has.
It's just a name now, right?
It's got to be the same name as
The class.
the class. Exactly.
So this is a constructor
That's a constructor.
for the class.
Yep. And now you need to open and close brackets to make it a method. And now we can decide which parameters does it take. And so this will tell us what we need. We need to have
School names.
a constructor that takes parameters for each field. So this thing here needs to take in one parameter, one for each field.
Okay.
Right? So inside that bracket, you need 3 different parameters.
School name.
Yep.
And it fills out if it's right. Sport. Oh, sport don't fill in.
Yeah, you did a couple things a little bit wrong, but it's fine. You're on the right track. You didn't put a comma there. It's a period.
Is that a period?
It's a period, yeah.
Okay, when I make a mistake, tell me right away.
Well, you know, I want you. Also, you forgot the type for school name. So you're saying school name. What type? What type is this?
I gotta put string.
You gotta put
first.
the type. You gotta put the string school name.
String.
That tells it that it's a
name.
parameter. Calling the parameter school name. It's type of string.
And then the next one is a string, of course, because it already was. We already said it.
Yep.
Now it should fill in.
Sport, exactly.
And string team.
Yep. And now just inside the method. Or yeah,
I gotta put something at the end.
you gotta get your braces in place, your curly brackets, right? Because it's still gotta have an inside.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So inside here, we're gonna set the values. So yeah, we're gonna take parameters and put them in each field. So school name has to be set to school name, sport has to be set to sport, and team has to be set to team.
So, do I just start typing school name?
Yeah, you need to remember though, because if you do school name equals school name, now it's going to be confused, right? Because it doesn't know the difference between these two
this.
school names. Yeah, so which one of them has to be this?
This one over here.
Exactly.
This dot school name.
Equals school name. Oh,
Yeah, I shouldn't have pressed enter.
no. It's so tempting though.
And
You'd think it
then
would be smart enough to know that things to the right of your mouse.
This dot sport is equal to sport, and this dot team is equal to team.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the constructor that
The constructor that takes parameters for each field. Because there's 3 fields.
yeah,
They're all strings.
they're all strings.
This constructor takes 3 parameters. They're all strings. The names match up. They're just setting them up.
Just setting them up.
Very, very straightforward, right?
Okay.
The complicated part is understanding that it's like the objects, the class, the instances, the fields. Like that's the hard part is like getting your head around what the fucking terms all mean. Because like once you have it there, it's like there's 3 things. The constructor has 3 things. You're setting these 3 things to each other, right? And it's so straightforward when you get down to that level. But once you get good at like the high level coding, a lot of it is just doing this
Over and
over again, but having objects touching each other the right way. It's just like putting the pieces together in just the right way that like one piece does a little bit of work and then another piece does like a little bit of work
more.
and then it's just like all this fucking work gets done.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to fucking understand.
Okay, so we've
We've done everything besides the test.
include the get method. So now we got to do the test, right?
Yep.
Test team. And again, I started in here. I didn't know
What it was going to look like.
what it was going to look like, but I knew I needed a public static main void,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Yeah. So test team, I would make that lowercase t for the start.
that one.
Yeah. And it's going to complain now because everything else that was everywhere else that was being used is now confused. And then those last 3 spots. Now for this, I think you can do Alt-Shift and click, like, hold Alt-Shift and then click each of the 3 spots.
Or I can just do it this way.
You can just do it that way, yeah. I know how to do it on my Mac. I'm not sure how the Windows interface works.
That looks good.
Yeah, except the constructor that you're calling there in the test, we never implemented. Because we only made a constructor that took in 3 arguments. We didn't make one that takes in none. And we weren't supposed to. So that's fine. Because what we need to do now is write a test that makes 3 different teams with different values for all their stuff.
Okay.
So all we got to do is go back to your test class.
Yeah.
And so test team, I would triplicate that line for test teams 1, 2, and 3. Like duplicate that line.
Right underneath it.
Right underneath it, yeah.
And we'll call this test team 1.
Test team 2. I would do 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, to this 1, right?
Well,
Or you
one
made
above
that 1-1.
Yeah, 1, 2.
Okay,
And
fair enough.
You
fair
know,
enough,
I mean, it
yeah.
doesn't really matter, but yeah, just I'm a stickler for making things line up and like be the same length and shit like that. Yeah, and this one would be test team 3, right? And now we just need to pass in some fake values for these teams, and so you can just have fun with it, right? Like, what do we need for each team? We need. Well, I don't even remember what 3 things we
Team
need.
name, sport, and school name.
Yeah. So you can just start filling in those values for each of your fake teams.
Like right here?
No, in the constructor calls. So it says where it says new team,
Yeah.
inside those brackets, that's where you fill in the data.
Oh, okay. So we can say now, do I have this set up to be in a certain data?
In a certain order, you do. I think it's team, sport,
So
school
I'd
name.
just come here, right?
Yeah.
So school name, sport, and team. That's the order.
No, the order is what's defined there.
School name, sport, team.
So you did it in the same way, which is good because then it's
Yeah.
things are consistent.
So I need string, school name. Do I do that string?
No, you just pass it in the
School name.
school name in
The
quotes.
actual
The
school
actual
name.
name of the school.
So Gonzaga.
Sure. Right?
Gonzaga.
Yep.
And then a comma.
Yep.
And then the sport is hockey.
Sure.
Hockey. Comma. And the team is the Vikings.
Yeah. So now just do this 3 times.
And then do this for
the other 2 teams.
the other
with
2
the
teams.
Other
So
teams, right? So
Brother
fucking-
Rice.
Exactly. Is it all going to be hockey?
Brother
Or?
Rice. No, they're gonna do.
Oh.
They're gonna do. Let's like these guys do tennis. Tennis, just because we can have fun with it, like you said now.
Exactly.
And the Brother Rice Celtics.
Oh,
But I
the
forgot-
classic. You forgot your
I
quotations.
forgot the quotation marks, but I love how something comes up red to kind of give
Yeah. I mean, you got to imagine back in the day, no one had any of this, and it was all just black and white,
you. Yeah.
and it gets really fucking confusing.
PWC
P-Dub.
and
Call it Dave/Bloodsport.
Dave Bloodsport.
Dave, and then in brackets, Bloodsport, like kind of like a parenthetical name. It's a fake sport we made up in PWC for gym class one year.
So
You know,
just Dave,
and then in space bracket.
space bracket.
Yeah, Bloodsport.
Just
The sport was called Dave. Yeah. And then close bracket, obviously.
close bracket.
Yeah. And I don't know what the team name could be called. I don't know. I don't even know what we would have called our team. Oh, the
But what were the normal team names of PWC? Sure, it doesn't matter.
right the Cavaliers. I think was
Cavaliers.
one, right? Dave Bloodsport.
Okay, and now what?
So now we need to test that all these 3 teams actually have the values that we want them to have.
Okay.
So here, let me just check something right quick. Let me just see what kind of, because I don't know if like there was like a specific testing framework you were supposed to be using, or if it was just kind of like print stuff out to test.
Print stuff out to test.
Yeah, no JUnit. Or anything.
No JUnit yet.
No. Okay. Cool. Oh, how do I navigate back?
Just here. I don't know where you went, so the best way.
Oh
is
wait, I can find it. I can find it. Boom. Team.
right here. Right here by.
Oh yeah.
Chapter 4 exercises. Right there.
Oh yeah. So.
So we got to write an application named test team to instantiate 3 team objects with different values, which we've done.
Yeah. And then display all the data.
These lines below us now, are they any good to us?
Those getters are no good. The print one is okay.
Right.
Because that print one we can just rename that test team to 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll know.
And we can print this line 3 times.
Yeah, and just change which test
So
team.
would I take these 3
Take
lines
those
out?
Yeah, they're not doing anything for us.
So this would become test team 1.
Yeah.
Test team 1. Test team 1.
Yep.
Copy the whole line. Paste it. And paste it. And then change this to 2, right?
Yeah.
2. And since my finger's on 2, I'll do all the 2s at once. 3. 3. And run it.
Yep. Now, it might be kind of ugly, right? Because, yeah, it's a little bit ugly. So maybe we've fixed the formatting to make it not just like Vikings on like a hockey.
Okay, so what I would do here then is I would like just put a space there. No, okay, you tell me what to do.
I would put the space in the actual print itself. Because, like, the separation here wouldn't be, like, inherent to the name. It's going to be something that's just, like, you know... The name itself doesn't have a space. The space is just there to separate the name from everything else. So that's just how I would do it.
I think I hit the wrong button then. But I want to come over to there, Control C. Control D. Control D. That should look a lot better.
That should look a lot easier to read.
Vikings, Gonzaga, hockey. Celtics, Brother Rice, tennis.
Now, this is a total fucking... I don't care how you do it. I would put the school name first so that it said PWC Cavaliers, Brother Rice Celtics, right? Like, but
Oh, what did I do wrong? Okay,
you put the team first. It literally doesn't matter, but just in terms of, like, if you're actually looking at, you know, a team, I don't know, like, it's very minor... a thought.
Oh. That's team over.
It needs to be get team, not team.
I see what you're saying. What we need to do is go right here. This is all new features to me, right?
Oh, I love it.
So I'm pretty fucking snazzed up about it.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking sick.
And then here, if I pressed Alt and come across the 3 of them,
yeah,
I should be able to type get school
name. Yeah. Yeah. It just makes life so easy.
That's like that there is fucking
huge time save.
Oh fuck, man. And now Gonzaga Vikings hockey, Brother Rice Celtics tennis, and the PWC Cavaliers Dave Bloodsport. And so we finished 5A.
Not quite.
No?
I think we're missing
the motto.
To do with the motto.
Right.
Yeah,
and we got to put the motto.
Each of these lines has to have the motto at the end.
And you just need to go plus
Test.
motto?
I think it's
motto's final.
Capital T team dot motto.
Well, let's have a look and see where it is. It's the string is motto.
Yeah, but the way you reference it is through you would type capital T team dot motto. Now you could do test team 1 dot motto. I think IntelliJ would complain at you, but you can do it.
No, motto is final. We don't need to change that shit.
It's static, so we don't need to say
that's what I mean,
test team. Like this is what you're supposed to do with static variables.
Yeah.
Now it's a bit weird that they all have the same fucking motto.
Yeah, but
whatever.
That's what they wanted for the fucking. assignment, and run it. Oh, I need a space there.
A space, and I think sportsmanship is supposed to have a exclamation mark after it.
Okay, so that's just
That's
over here. And could we italicize this now, or
no.
it seemed like it was italicized?
Yeah, I
that?
think that's just how they say. Their italicized. That's just supposed to like indicate a string. I think
Yeah.
is just the way they're doing it. But there's no. There are probably ways that you could have italics come out in your console down here.
Yeah.
Not easy. Not something that's just going to be like, as simple as typing it in differently. Like
It's like as simple as opening an eye and closing it.
not like no,
Not like
it's,
HTML italics.
it's probably something fucking fucked if you want to get italics in there. You probably have to download like a new type of console that supports it, right? So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now, I mean, like, you might. Well, no, I mean, this is fine for now. I'm just thinking, like, how did you have it set up for your for the last one we did?
The last
one we had it formatted like the fitness tracker.
Fitness tracker.
It was in the test, right?
Test fitness tracker.
Like how it says like the actual stuff. Like you might for the team stuff want to do it a similar way to this, just because it's like really easy to read what it says, but not a huge deal.
It doesn't say. It just says save it and test it to see that it goes in there.
Yeah.
Display all the data, including the motto for each object.
Yeah, I mean.
Instantiate 3 team objects with different values.
Mm-hmm.
So team 1, team 2, and team 3, and they all had different values.
Yep.
We displayed the data with the motto for each object. Now the next part is create a class named game. Include 2 fields that hold data about the teams participating in the game. So, just make another fucking file, right?
Yeah. And now this is where we get into what I was talking about, how like the classes can have objects that are like other classes that you've defined. So like
this is game.
Yeah.
Because I'm just calling it a class game.
Yep.
And we need to come down.
So it has 2 teams participating in the game. So it's going to need 2 fields that are of type team. Private.
String.
No. They're teams. They're not strings.
Private.
Team.
Team.
Remember, because we just made a team class.
Yeah.
So you have private team, and we can have if you have two teams playing a sports game, what are you going to call those 2 teams?
Team 1 and team 2.
Are you though? Or are you going to call them like home and away?
Home and away, I guess. Home team, away team. Okay.
Right?
So team.
Private team.
Is equal to.
Or no, yeah. Private team, home team. No. Private team.
Yeah.
Space. Home team.
Small.
Yeah, small.
And then camel toe.
Yeah, and then just boop, that's it. That's the whole line. And then we do it again for the away team. And
Private
this is
team.
away
team.
Yeah. And so this is where the code starts to get really, really intricate, because like I said, like everything in Java is just objects.
Yeah.
So like you've been doing this similar strategy, but with strings and ints, and it's like that's how you've been using them. But then every time you've been using your actual classes, it's been in like using new blah and then like team.get and stuff.
Yeah.
But like your team can be a field for another class.
Okay.
And so, everything that applies to how we're dealing with strings and stuff can also just apply to all the objects you make. Like the team, the game, for example. You might have a class that has a list of games that it keeps track of. But, this is where it starts to get this is where the rubber really hits the road in terms of the object-oriented, is when you have multiple objects that you're creating that are all nested and containing each other and using each other and stuff. So yeah, what else do we need for the game? Game time. But the game time, for example, 7 p.m. I mean, what did we use last time when we were trying to deal with time?
Local date.
Local date. So I would just use the same thing, just to get comfortable with something for...
So this is going to be
Well, it should still be called. The name of it should still be Game Time.
Okay.
It's the type of it that you need to change. So it's not a private team. It's a private local date.
Oh yeah. And then we got to
Or local date might not be the best, but we'll see. We'll try doing it and then see how it
and I just
how it works for us.
imported it into this class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So include a constructor that takes parameters for the two team objects and time. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh yeah, this is part of question B.
Yes.
Or 5. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Create a class named Game.
Yeah.
That has 2 team fields that hold data about the teams. Okay, yeah. Also include a field. Include a constructor that takes parameters for 2 team objects at a time.
Yep.
And this is what I've got done?
Well, you don't have the constructor yet.
Okay, so it's public. And it's going to be game.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to pass it something, right?
Yeah, you're gonna tell it what its parameters are. So a parameter takes parameters for 2 team objects and a time.
So, home team.
Yeah.
Do I put that there first?
Yeah, but you also need to tell it what type it is. But you can put home
Okay,
you gotta tell it what type it is. But
it's a string.
Is it?
No,
What type is it?
it's going to be a team
Exactly.
space home team.
Home team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it also needs to take in the away team and the time.
So team away team, team.
Oh, too many teams. How many teams play a game?
2.
2 teams.
We need the local time here.
Also, I think we should probably just use string because I think the way they want it to be is just to say 7 p.m. Not. I don't even know if you can get hours in local date because all we saw was years, month, day.
Yeah.
So I think we should change game time to a string and just do exactly what it says, like 7 p.m. whatever.
Okay, and right here I can change it to string, right?
Yeah. So you can change. Yeah, you
String,
can string game
and then
time.
we can say, 7.
Oh no. No, this is the constructor. There's you don't no values here, just names. Just names of what the variables that will
String.
become values.
Game time. Oh, sorry.
Game space.
Game time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we need to change the field and we need to just fill out the constructor.
We need to change what field?
Game time, because right now it's a local date. Let's
Yeah.
just make it needs to just be a string.
Just let it be a string.
I was getting ahead of myself because I wasn't sure what. I thought this was part of a new question that they would be asking more stuff.
So yeah, I'll leave the util up top. It don't matter.
Yeah, it's not a huge deal.
And then string game time.
Yep.
And then we have to put our curly brackets in.
Yep.
Because this is where we pass it. We get it to do something.
Yep, we're making a new game, and we're given these 2 teams and a game time. We got to put them somewhere.
We got to put them in the game.
In this.
In this
In
game.
this. Yeah.
This dot home team. Would that be right?
Yeah.
And that is going to be equal to new.
No.
No?
Nope, just home team.
Equal to home team.
Yep.
And this dot away team is equal to away team. And this dot game time
Equal to game time.
equal to game time.
So like I said, see how similar this is to the team class?
Yes.
And all this stuff is just such a similar formula that once you get comfortable with doing it and
Yeah, and I see the point of it, just to get us comfortable doing it, right?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's that far away from you having a better understanding. It's just I think you just literally just need to keep practicing because once you do this 10 more, 20 more times, it's just gonna be oh yeah, I get it now. You're gonna see a question like this, and you're gonna be like, team blah blah blah, team blah blah, string blah blah. Then you're gonna be like,
That's what I
constructor,
mean.
it's just generate it. Like,
There's one guy in our class, Doug, and he can do that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can read it all. Like, he had this assignment done 2 hours after the teacher
Yeah.
gave it out last week.
And it really it shouldn't take too long. Once you have that grip on it.
That's what I'm saying, and that's the grip that.
Yeah. And so like my thing would be just to like really look at how similar these things are. Like let's even for an example, I'm gonna move this stuff up here. Like all of these examples that we've been dealing with have been create some class. Oh, here, you know what? That's a good idea. That's a good idea. So all of these examples have been create some class that has some fields. And that's all a class ever is.
Yeah.
A class is only ever something that has a bunch of fields. And so you have a constructor to set up the fields. And then you have getters. Maybe you have setters, but you don't necessarily have setters. But you need to get them, usually. Right? And so, like, look at the similarities here, right? Class name. Field declaration. So we're declaring which fields it has.
Yeah.
And then constructor declaration. So how do I create this object? So in this example, we had with no arguments.
Yeah.
By giving it default values.
Yeah.
Or with
By-
all the arguments.
With all the arguments.
And again, like you're going to have a constructor that has every argument, generally.
Yeah.
Generally, this is the one you're going to have. This is your second most common, and then maybe you'll have like a weird fucking edge case where there'll be like one default thing. And anyway, but that's beside the point. The point is you have your constructors. Generally, you have one that takes in all the arguments. And so once you know that you're making a class that has a certain number of attributes, your first step can be, okay, I'm going to make a list of attributes, all private, and I'm going to come and make this constructor, and it's going to take in the same things, right?
Yeah.
Same things here.
Yeah.
And then it's going to set up this dot everything equals the same thing. This dot home team equals home team. This dot away team equals away team. This dot game time equals game time. Like, that is going to be something you're going to be doing over and over and over again.
Okay.
And, like, yeah, I think, like, just doing, like, some of the questions that, like, you weren't assigned.
Yeah.
Just do them and see how
Well, you know what? Doing these over again.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, do them over again.
Right.
Do it, like, you know, make a new folder where you don't have any of this stuff. Do it over again. Try to get as far as you can. Come back, listen, rewatch some of this. And then I would recommend just doing some of the other ones here because they're all the same fundamentally.
So
it's just
are
the
we finished
flavors.
this? No, we don't have.
We're not test the game.
Also include a field for game time, for example. Include a constructor that takes parameters for 2 teams, objects at a time.
Which we have.
But we don't have the time, do we?
We do, yeah. String
Okay.
game time. Yeah. So it's not a time. It's the time, but
So now write an application named
Test
test
game.
game.
yeah.
So back over here again. I hate my mouse. I have to do that to find it every once in a while. What am I doing here again? I'm doing
You're making a new thing.
fucking thing called test game.
Yeah.
Test game. And in here, I just want to read what it's saying now. So this is a class. Write an application named test game to instantiate a game object.
Yep.
Then pass the game to a method that displays the details about the game. So this is going to be...
Oh, that's a little tiny bit different than what we've been doing previously.
Yes.
Because previously we've just been displaying the data. Here it's saying we need to pass the game to a method that displays the data. So it's a bit different. But
Yeah.
I would just do what you normally do for your test classes.
Okay, but first over here, I'm going to put my test in. No, right here, test.
Yeah.
So, public static void,
Yeah, always.
PSVM.
Exactly.
And we are giving this a test game. Test game. And we're going to call it game 1.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what we call it, really, right?
No, I mean, yeah, you can just call it game 1.
Game 1, just so I know that this is our first game.
Yep.
And this is equal to new test game.
New game.
New game.
Yeah. because it's not actually.
Oh, right, because we're going back to the
It's
game.
not a test game. It's a game.
We're calling
So this first test game needs to be game.
just test.
Yeah. I just wanted to see that you got the structure of it correct when you were going forward. I didn't want to like cut you off and then, ruin
Okay,
your
but
train. If you had the right train of thought.
Yes,
You were just
but
a little
now
bit
this
confused.
is I'm pulling from the constructor that we just built,
Right, in game.
doing it this way.
Test game?
Yeah.
The class test game is just going to test the
game.
game class.
Okay.
Right, so the game is what you have. And you know this because if you look at the test fitness tracker,
Yeah.
it's test fitness tracker, but the object it uses is just fitness tracker.
Okay.
Right, so again, it's very much similar.
Very similar.
Very
Right,
similar formula. And yeah, like, so we're just going to make a new game and we're going to pass it in, or, well, what's it saying? It's saying to pass the game to a method that displays the details about it. So we need to pass in some details to this game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, because the last thing we worked on here was the team. I think team is here. So I'm just going to show you the team test that we had, right?
Yeah.
So right here, we're testing some teams. So we know how to create a team, just like this, right?
Yeah.
So we need to create a game to test it, that it has the right value, that it can. We need to make sure we're setting up game rights that it gets its values set correctly, right? So basically, what we want to do is we want to pass it 2 teams
Yeah.
and some time.
Okay.
So you just got to make 2 teams and a time and pass them into game.
So I'm
So
making this game a new game.
Yep.
And I'm going to put the new 2 teams inside these brackets.
yeah. Now, one thing you can do for your own sanity and for clarity is, so just do, what were you just thinking of doing? And just do it, because I'll see if you're on the right track.
I was just thinking of giving the team name Gonzaga.
No, because you actually need a team object. So the team object needs a name, a sport, and a team name,
Okay.
right? So there's a couple ways you could do that, but basically, that from the game, well, you can know, obviously there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But so when you make a game, it needs team, home team, away team, string, game time.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So what you
okay.
can do in your test is you can say, you can be very, very explicit in your test. You can say team, test, home, team. Oh, those are ends. Home team. So I can say team, test, home team equals. Well, I can just leave it for now, but just know that I have it, and I can have. Oh my God, team, test, away team, and then string, test, game time. Now, maybe we don't need to do it for the game time because it's a bit clear because 7 p.m. is pretty clear that it's a time.
Yeah.
But my goal here is by setting it up this way, I'm not too worried about what these actually look like for now.
Yeah.
I just want these objects to exist.
Yeah.
So that I can come in here into my game and say test home team is being passed in as home team for my game. And what's my away team? My away team is just my test away team. And what's my game time? Test game time, right? And the reason that I'm doing it this way is because these teams need so much of their own shit defined,
Yeah.
right? So now we know that our game is going to be set up with this stuff, but now we just need to set up our teams for this test. And since we already did that, here we already have 2 test teams, right? So thoughts? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I'm going in a lot of different directions, but the basic idea is that if I came into test team here and I said...
I should be grabbing these teams, shouldn't I?
Just grab them. Take them for your next test. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, show me how to do it then.
Yeah, so I'm just literally saying, I've called these things something different,
Yeah.
but I can just take everything north of the assignment operator, so to speak, and I can just copy paste it. And then boom, I have one of these test teams. So now, new team. This is how we made a new team, right? So we made a team by just calling the team constructor with these 3 values.
Yeah.
So now all I'm doing is I'm calling that and saving it in a variable called test home team.
Yeah.
The variable is of type team.
Yeah.
So test home team is a variable, and this is what it contains.
Yeah.
It's a new team, Gonzaga's Vikings hockey team, right? And so my test away team, fuck it, we're just gonna say equals new team Phil's house. Poker. Fucking Phil. I don't know, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then now we have we have two teams.
Yeah.
Test team. They're the home team and the away team that we're using for the test.
Yes.
So the test game is going to take in the two teams, the home team, which again we've just defined,
Yeah.
the away team,
Yeah.
which we also defined, and the game time. Yeah. Now, that's not how you've been doing it before, because like for the fitness tracker test, what we did is we just said new fitness tracker, swimming, 5, local date dot now. The reason I want to do it this way is because if I try to do it like that, like local date dot now is basically the same thing as new local date, right? Like those are just semantic. They're not any different in function. So like if I wanted to call this the same format as what we've been doing, I would have to do game equals new game. And then I would have to say, instead of test home team, I would have to say new team. And then Gonzaga. Like, I'd have to put it all on the same line, right? And it would get very, very ugly very, very quickly. Like, even if I were to do, like, a new line here and say new team for my away team, A, B, C, and then my time of 7 p.m. Like, even if I put it all on a new line, that is damn near impossible to read.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that doesn't make any sense to anybody, even if they know what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's why, for things like this, like, when you get to the point where you're making objects where the data... So game here is like... I don't know what the technical term for this is, but it's like some kind of higher order object, because it has objects inside of it, right? It has teams, and teams have a bunch of shit. So teams has some strings, game has some teams. When you get to the point where you're making objects that contain other objects, generally in your tests, you want to split out all the constructors. So the constructor for your inner object, your team, that are part of the game, you want to pull them out because you want to avoid this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Generally. Now, if you're confident and comfortable with it, then you can do this, but you know, if you want anyone to read it, I think it's a lot easier to read. This game is created, it's a new game, and you got a test home team and a test away team and a game time, right?
Yeah.
Like, much fucking easier to read than this.
Yeah.
And like, you know, if you're like, oh, well, what's the test home team? Well, I can just go up here and see that it's a team and it has the school name and sport and team if I care. But really, I don't care. I just care that it has these things.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I started this one off a weird way.
Yeah.
And I knew this was going to be a bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's why I was like, ooh, this is where it really hits, the rubber hits the road, is when you have objects inside objects. Because you're going to have these nested new game with new team inside.
Yes.
And like, imagine if the team had like a list of player names and you had to define that for the team, right? And you had to say like Wayne Gretzky, fucking whatever his name is, fucking Bobby O'Toole, fucking Mark Messier, right? Like, if all those things had to be defined, then you'd end up with like 20 lines here, right? For new players, if your team had players. And so that's the general idea, is you can split it all up. And so the strategy, as far as I see it, is like, when you're coming into this test and you know it's coming, you can come in and say game, test game, equals new game. And you can see by just doing open brackets and waiting a second, actually, because IntelliJ is really smart, it tells you what you need. You need a home team. And so you can just say, okay, home team. I need an away team. Right? And I need a game time. And then you can close it. Now look, they're not defined.
Yeah.
So there's going to be errors. But so you can just be like, okay, cannot resolve symbol home team. Create local variable home team. Boom. And it's going to say, give me a home team. And then you can come in and say, oh, well, it just needs to be defined, right? Like new team. And what does the team need? It needs a school name. Okay, well, I can give it a school name because, you know, at this point, I just need to call it something. A sport. I can give it a sport, basketball. Fuck it, right? Like,
But-
I can give it a team.
I wanted to pull from what I already made, didn't I? Don't I?
Yeah, but they don't exist in the same time. Like, because this says create a class called an application called test game. Yeah, just because we haven't actually like these teams don't actually exist.
Okay.
These are two separate classes.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, what we might end up having is we could have like a test sports or something, and then in here we could have instead of a main,
We'd have another constructor.
well, we'd have what we'd have. I'll just show you right quick. I mean, because we can undo these changes and you can just see them later. But I think this is a good point because what we could do is we could have like get rid of that. So public void main, we could say like test teams, and we can just call that. It's just a method, and we can say test game. And what we can do is we can just say public static void test teams. So all of that code, oh shit. All that code that I copy pasted from inside of main. How do I paste it?
Control V. Yeah, you lost it.
I lost it, but the point is that I can
Control Z and get back to it.
Control Z and get back to it. So the main idea is that I can take this code out of main, put it inside some other static void method.
Yeah.
Because you can just do anything you want. Like, any fucking, doesn't matter. So I'm testing my teams. I could say test my teams here and just say, boom, team 1 equals whatever, team 2 equals whatever, whatever. Now the formatting is all, oh, it cleaned it up for me. So now inside my main, I can just call test teams. Now, that, like this that I just made, aside from the changing this name,
Yeah.
this is equivalent. These are the same thing. Because all I
Yeah.
did was I took this code and I'm just calling it test teams.
Yes.
Right, so anytime the compiler, when it runs this code, sees test teams, it's just going to take this, copy paste it in line.
Yeah.
Well, it might do some more complicated shit, but that's again esoteric. So what you could do if you wanted to persist, like for your game test, if you wanted to keep the same teams, you could say like, hey, for this whole test class, I could have fucking teams, test team. But then you just need to make sure that you don't call it static.
Okay.
It gets a bit confusing because main has to be static.
Yeah, you're going too far off.
See, I'm
now.
going way too far off now. So this is why for now,
Let's
just
get back to doing
let's
just
get
the
back to
example. Control Z a bunch of times. Oh, you're taking out everything.
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm going way too far.
Yeah. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh yeah, there's still a bit of.
And then the model got to go in and the spaces. I think that's it.
That one bothered me.
I agree. I got to have the white space right.
Yeah, it's got to be right.
All right.
Yeah. So again, we're back to testing the game.
Yes.
So again, the first thing we do is we ignore that and we just make a new game
Yeah.
because we know we're going to be testing the game.
Yeah.
So we just make a new game. We can let IntelliJ tell us which things it needs,
Yeah.
or we can pull it up side by side and say, okay, if I'm making a new game, I need a home team, an away team, and a game time.
Yeah.
And those are going to be literally just named variables.
Yeah.
So here they're parameters, because they just are. That's what they're called. And here they're actually going to be objects, right?
Okay.
And the objects go into here. They're parameters when they're at this side. But anyway, I don't know why I'm even saying it this way.
Yeah.
But it's very confusing,
Let's
right?
just go to the question again.
Go to the question.
Write
Write
an
an
application
application.
named test game
to
to
instantiate
instantiate a game object.
Then pass the game to a method that displays the details about the game. So that's the part that's a bit more confusing. So I'm just gonna do my magic here. Away team, Gonzaga villains.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can't have it be Gonzaga versus Gonzaga. Holy Spirit.
Can be basketball though, yeah.
Yeah, they're playing the same game. I think
Okay.
with the game they have to be the same sport. So game time. game time where it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's a simple object. I'd be more comfortable with saying, let's put in a time
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That's not too hard to read for anyone. But, late game, you might consider even this to be like bad form, and you might want to just call it its own thing, game time. So now we need to, so we instantiated a game object. We're done that part. We need to pass the game to a method that displays the details. So
System.out.
no,
Okay.
no, I don't think that's because I'll show you actually. That's a good point because system.out.println, right, won't show us the details about the test game. If we just pass it test game, we can do that. We can do that, and look what it prints.
Gonzaga, blah blah blah.
Game at 1B28CDFA.
So that's the memory.
The memory address of that game object.
Of that game object.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to, instead of doing system.out.println, we need to create a method that displays the details about the game.
Okay.
So we need a method in our test class. So that's the first thing we need.
Well, the first
There's
thing
a
we
new
can take
method.
this system out, right?
Yep.
We can take that line out,
We can take that out.
and then just because I want to get back on track, and then here we'd go public.
We do it not inside the main function. It would be outside the main function.
Oh, with it?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I just delete a few of the dead spots there for a second. Enter it. And then outside of it like this.
Yeah. Now we define a new method.
So public or private.
Leave it as public. It could probably be private, but I don't think it really doesn't matter for a test class. But yeah, it can be private, but
So is this going to be test game?
no, this is going to be void. It's
Public.
also going to be static.
Public. That.
Public static void. And it needs a name. So what are we trying to do with this method?
We're trying to get game details.
There you go. So call it that. Yep. And so it needs a list of arguments that it takes in, because we're trying to pass in the game object to it. Right? So game details needs to take in a game. So
Home team.
no, just the game, not the teams, just the game. So game, and then you need to name it, because you're telling it now it's taking in a game type. And what is that going to be called as far as this method's concerned?
Test game.
Test game, like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so now that you're done with the signature of the method, so you have the parameters you need, because we just need to make a method that displays the details. Well, we needed pass the game object to the method. That's all we needed, right? So now we've done that. We have a method to which we can pass the game object.
Okay.
Now the method needs to display the details about the game. So as far as this method is concerned, the only thing in the world that exists is test game. And so it needs to use test game and system.out.println to display the information about test game.
Print line, and we're going to print test game.
Well, again, that's not going to print the details about test game, right? That's going to print the memory address. So we're going to want to say test game dot team. We're going to want to make some getters, I suppose, for the game object. That's what we need to do. It doesn't say we need to do that, but we need to, because we need to be able to print the details. So. But basically, we're going to be doing the same thing for a game that we did for the team, right? Like for the team test and for the fitness test. So we're just not doing it from the main method. So it's going to look a lot like that, but it's just going to be happening here with test game. Understand?
Not really.
Okay, that's fair. So here in the main method,
Yeah.
the only thing in the world that exists is this thing called args,
Yeah.
which we've never been using. So it's just nothing exists.
Yeah.
So we tell it, look, Here's some new things that you can consider to exist.
Yes.
Teams 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Now you can print out
out.
stuff about those.
Yeah.
Here, what we're doing is we're saying you always start in main.
Yeah.
So again, the only thing in the world that exists is args. Ignore it, whatever. Okay, here's some things for your consideration. Oh, great compiler. We have a home team and an away team, and they look this way.
Yes.
And now we have a test game that is a game comprising of these two teams,
Yeah.
as we've previously discussed, and a game time.
Okay.
And now,
You carry on now and just do it.
yeah, and I'll just because again, you can walk through all this after.
Well, having it for reference after the fact
Yeah.
is good to me.
And so what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to call game details on test game, right? Because that's the whole point of making this thing.
Yeah.
So there's no real difference between this being like that and whatever's in here being just here.
Okay.
Like it's just for cleanliness sake because this might get complicated.
Yeah.
Like it might get complicated whatever we're doing for the details of the game. So all we're saying is do whatever's in game details, but game details is like if you're gonna do me, you better give me a game first. And so you need to give it a game first. And it's like, okay, whatever game you gave me, I'm calling test game. We happen to call it test game, but this could be fucking test game XZA if we wanted it to be, and that wouldn't change the considerations from in here. It's still just test game,
Yeah.
right? So it is a bit confusing that, what's the difference between this thing here,
And the everything
and this thing
still
here?
called test game. Yeah.
right? And that's why I went to a little bit of pains to be like, these are objects, these are parameters. It's confusing,
Yeah.
and that's something you're just going to need to study the fucking terminology.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, like right here, this test game.
Okay, so up top, home teams. That home team
Yeah.
is a field.
No.
No, what
It's-
is it?
it's
an
a-
object now.
Technically speaking, it's a local variable. Local variable.
Okay.
It's a local variable because it exists inside a method. Like it was declared. So yeah, there's two things. There's declaration and assignment. So declaration is when you say the name and the type.
Yeah.
So you say team, home team. The fact that you have the type there and the name means it's a declaration.
Okay.
Assignment happens when you have the equal sign and then whatever it's being assigned to. That's pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
Yeah.
So depending on where the declaration exists, there's a few different types of variables that you can have. So this is let me just get a good example. I think fitness tracker is probably the best place to do that, honestly, because that was a bit more straightforward. No, maybe team. Okay, so we already said we had like public and private.
Yeah.
Those are both. So there's static fields
Yeah.
are declared outside of methods. They're not in a method,
Okay.
right? And then they're static. And then you have instance fields also outside of methods. So instance fields,
Okay, so this is just an instant field of a class.
yeah, and belong to an instance of a class, an object. Right? So an instance of a class is an object.
Yeah.
Static fields belong to the class itself, not to the instances. They belong to the class. So like class name, so like yeah, team dot motto, right? Is how you reference it
Yeah.
anywhere. And now belong to an instance of an object. So an example of that would be team Vikings equals new team school sport Vikings, right? So we're just calling it Vikings, and then you'd say Vikings dot school name. Now it's private, so we can't do that, but
Yeah.
anyway, I'll just leave that example out because I think it's not clarifying things. But yeah, they belong to the instance of the object, not to the class. So static field. So there's fields,
Yeah.
and they can either be static or instant. They can be constant or not constant,
Yeah.
and they can be public or private.
Yeah.
Then there can be. So here we have. Parameters and arguments. So I think this is a bit of a weird one. So like the school name inside the constructor signature. So like the brackets. Do you know what I mean by signature? Yeah. It's like this whole thing is the signature. So the school name inside there is technically called an argument. And then the reference to the argument as seen in gray, not purple, here is called a parameter. The purple, which we have used this to disambiguate, is the instance field.
Okay.
So like parameters and arguments is a bit of a random distinction. So you can kind of just think of them all as parameters. So maybe that's more confusing than it needs to be, but parameters works, arguments works. There is a subtle difference, but it's not that important.
Yeah.
So you have that's the few differences. Is you have the instance fields belonging to either the class itself or to the the static fields belonging to the class, instance fields belonging to the actual objects that get created.
Yeah.
So like home team has a school name, a sport, a team. But team, the class, has a motto, which is a bit weird because why do all the teams have the same motto? Doesn't make much sense. But so in main, args here would be a parameter.
Yeah.
And then all this stuff would be local variables.
Yeah.
But then the local variable here, test game, is a different locality. Like inside main is one local, like one area. So everything in here is local to itself. But inside game details, test game is not, like these aren't the same. Like this test game goes into here as an argument or as a parameter, and then it comes into here as a local variable.
Okay.
Right?
So how are we doing this now? Then pass the game
Pass
to
the
a method
game.
that displays the details.
So we've already got the
Okay.
method, and all we got to do is say, hey, let me just like line some stuff up. So like, what does the game have at a fundamental level that we want to see? Like, what kind of stuff does the game contain?
Team names, school name, and sport type. Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean basically, right? So all I'm gonna say to start us off is, let's make our test as clear as fucking possible to read.
Yep.
And so let's set it up with just the table of stuff that we want to see before we start filling in which like before we even touch test game. Let's just make sure that we have a fucking beautiful fucking table set up for it.
Okay.
Right? So we're going to set the table before we fucking bring out the plates.
Yeah.
So we're going to say home team colon, right? On one line. And then we're just going to do that's it for now. And then we're going to do we're going to copy that for a few different teams. So away team, whatever, and then game time, yeah. And now all we need to do is say, okay, so how do we tell what the home team is from the game? Right now, we can't because it's all private. So really what we need setters and getters. But we should have done this when we started, because if you're making a class like this, it should just be part of your protocol to be like public team get home team. Like that should just be part of your protocol.
So anytime I do something, I should just set up getters.
You should set up getters. I would leave your setters out of it until you absolutely know you need them. Personally, that's how I would do it. Because if you don't need them, you don't need them. So don't put them there if you don't need them. Don't make your objects easier to change than they should be. Because again, like how often does the name of a fucking school team change? Not very often.
Not very often.
So public string get game time. All right, so return game time. So now we have our getters, so we can just use them over here and say, look, home team, how are we going to represent that?
Plus the get home teams.
So test game dot get home team. So that's going to return a team, right? Not any. Oh, sorry. Right. So that's going to return a home team. But then what does the home team look like if we just see now this is going to be so like this is just going to return again like a memory address for the team.
Okay.
So what we want is we want to say, okay, what does this need to look like? At the end of the day, what we want it to say basically is home team. We want it to say like Gonzaga Heroes.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe we just want to say at the outset, we want to say like, what sport are we playing here, guys? Like sport? What sport are we playing? Because hopefully we're playing the same fucking sport.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just do test game dot get home team dot get sport. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? We're getting the home team and we're getting its sport.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if we were going to be sticklers about it, we could say, okay, do these teams actually even agree on what sport they're playing?
Yeah.
Right? Like we could, but I think that this is a fine way to do it.
Okay.
Let's just assume they're using the same sport. So, but here we can do test game.getHomeTeam.
Get team name.
Exactly. So we probably should have called that team name instead of .get team.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit confusing now what we're talking about. But, so space, right? Because we want it to be test, we want to get home team again. Get home team dot get, oh no, we want sport, we want probably the,
away team.
No,
No, that's home team there.
That's home team. I was just thinking maybe we want the school name, right? Like Gonzaga Heroes.
Okay.
Right, so that's all I'm thinking, just for. My God. Get school name plus. It's getting a bit cluttered. Right, and so basically just the same thing. Same thing for the away team, right? Like, literally just, it's going to be the exact same. It's just going to be, instead of testgame.getHomeTeam.
It's going to be that get away.
Right? Like.
So you just change the homes to away.
Yeah, exactly. So, dot get away team. Get away. And then game time is just going to be, again, test game dot get home team dot, oh no, the game time is part of the, how do we get the game time?
Well, we just test game time get time.
Yeah. Yep. It was a little bit of a trick question, admittedly.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, now we can just fucking run it and see what it says. Like, you know, it's possible we made an error somewhere, but
sport, basketball,
home team, Gonzaga Heroes,
Holy Heart Villains, game time, 9.
Right, and so like again, the strategies here are something that I think is a big takeaway. Like, this is a bit of a complicated question, it really is, but the things that you make your life a lot easier is to really try to find out, like, not the dependencies, to find out what the fuck they're asking you to, try to find out what they're asking you to do at a high level. Yeah. So I knew coming into this that they were asking me to create a game object, right? To instantiate a game object, then pass it into a method that displays details. So first thing I did was do this. Before I even knew what the teams were going to look like, I create the test game, and I figure out what it needs. I know it needs 2 teams. Okay, I go back and I make what it needs. Then I make a method that takes in a game. Now, I mean, that's like a little bit out of the scope of what we had done previously, but it's not that complicated. Like, you can make methods just like the main method.
Yeah.
It's just that the main method's what you call from this button,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
everything else you have to call from inside main. But again, that's not too complicated.
No.
And then when I knew that we needed to display the details, all I did was I just said, okay, well, what do we want it to look like fundamentally? We want it to look like sport plus something, home team plus something, away team plus something, game time plus something. And you leave the details out of it. You just figure out what the fucking skeleton is, and you fill it in after. And I think that's like a huge strategy to save you time and to make you think healthier about it. Because if you get bogged down in the line by line work, you can miss out. Because like a lot of it just comes down to building up a structure incrementally.
Yeah, that's how Eric does it in class. You know, he shows us how to do it, and like you say, just sometimes he goes too fast, and it just gets away from me, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you're new to it, and they have to go fast because it's an accelerated course. But
So the only one I got left to do now is number 6. I'll try that on my own
try that on your own. And when is it due?
tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow
Tomorrow
afternoon.
6.
Yeah,
If I got any trouble with that, well, if any troubles from here, I can ask my classmates too. And
yeah,
you know, the main thing is I did it myself more than anything.
yeah. And I mean,
You know,
it's not gonna. They're not gonna be able to tell that you fuck. They're not gonna like. They might say like, "Hey, it looks like you might have had help with this," and you'll be like, "Yeah, my son helped me."
well that
But it's like you didn't
that's-
plagiarize this. Like you didn't
No.
copy paste this off the internet, and like they're not gonna find examples of this anywhere else.
no.
Right? Like if they look up your code, they're
Well-
not gonna find your exact code.
See, so what I think I did was I think I copied that fucking Indian guy's code because I didn't have it done, and I'm thinking now that the Indian guy had it wrong, and me and him were probably the only two in the class that had it done that way, right?
Right.
So he called me out on it because he figures one of us is cheating, and he probably came to me first
Because
because.
you're the one who's struggling more.
Well, no, because
No?
I'm the one who's on camera. Like as soon as he shows up in the morning, I get on camera with him and have a
Yeah.
little chat for a minute, even, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the only guy that gets on camera, so maybe he just felt he could ask me first, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when he asked me, I was like, well, I couldn't lie to him. I
No.
just told
No.
him the truth, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And he said, well, don't worry about that. And he said, you need some help. And so he's going to get me counseling, right?
Which is good. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, man, because I think that it's like almost it's like in your fucking grasp.
It's right
It's
there.
not beyond your fucking capability.
No.
It's literally just keep
It's
practicing
just-
this. Like this shit's boring. This shit's, like once you get to a point where you're comfortable with this, it's like yawn, like copy paste some bullshit, right? Like whatever. But it is so valuable to just grind it out and get the skills you need, because all you need to know how to do is be given a specification that says, look, I want an object blank that has XYZ attributes,
Yeah.
and I want a test class that shows ABC behaviors, and like just grind those out, and they're really simple, and a lot of it's going to be same as this.
Yeah.
And like especially if you do that blood type question and like those other questions in the same chapter, just do them, because that's the only way
Well,
that you're going to learn.
I feel like I've learned it quite a bit here today, and now what I'm going to do, like I'm on chapter 4.
Yeah.
I'm going back to chapter 3, and I'm going to do all the exercises in chapter
Yeah, just
3
do them all.
first,
Yeah, yeah.
and until I'm comfortable doing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you need more exercises, you can literally just look up, like whatever the chapter is called, just look up Java exercises, blah.
I watched a little LinkedIn learning one today. It was an hour long, and it was basically system analysis and design with object-oriented stuff. So the first half of the little course was all about just the terminology, and I actually picked up more out of that little thing
Yeah.
today.
It's a lot. It's a lot of fucking terminology.
Right.
Like, it's a lot of just like, do you know what I'm talking about when I say local variable, declaration, instance fields, like all this fucking bullshit that like you take for granted when you're in the field. But I remember how fucking hard this was when I was trying to figure it out first going off. Like, it took me a long time to really get it, you know?
Yeah.
But also
The other thing
practice. And my thing was,
is these loops.
oh, well, those aren't loops, but yeah,
If-
control flow.
Control flow. There was one I was trying to think of, like, for tests in test.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking there
Yeah.
now, like that?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, but
Anyway. For loops are fucking confusing.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it was It was just the wording of it, just fucking like you say, you're just getting fucking four.
Yeah, well, it was
four
probably
game detail in game details.
yeah. Well, it was probably literally exactly this. It was probably for team in teams, right? And then like team dot print team or something like that, right? Like something where it's just like you lose the fucking meaning of the word because there's so many different little fucking variations. It's so annoying. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Yeah, but it was
But
probably something like this.
It's chapter 3 stuff. 'Cause
Yeah.
it was before this chapter, right?
Yeah, and like the object-oriented stuff is very convoluted.
Yeah.
I think that it's really important to have a good base with like all the like if, else, while, for, all that stuff. Like you need to have that stuff down. Because,
Actually, I think the best thing in this program is true or false values and returning the fucking booleans. Like that makes a big difference
yeah.
because then it's so easy. If it's true and else, fucking whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
just-
And yeah, you can just anytime you have a
Elif,
condition,
Elif, yeah.
anytime you have a condition that you need to be met, just make a method. Public boolean is condition met.
Yeah.
Evaluate it, and then it's like, okay, return true if it's met, return false if it's not. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like understanding how loops work and stuff like that. It's I found for loops incredibly hard to get my head around.
I texted Jonathan the other day about the tic-tac-toe one, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he tried to help me, but he was talking at a little bit higher level than where I'm at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Well, I tried to sit down and be like, how would I fucking solve tic-tac-toe? I was sat down for like 25 minutes, and like I just got lost because I was like thinking on a way too high level. Like I was trying to do for loops within for loops within for loops to solve tic-tac-toe, and then I'm like, okay, no, I'm like this is too fucking complicated for fucking tic-tac-toe. And so I looked it up, and like you said, it was like 150 lines, and I'm like, oh, that's gross. But like, yeah, apparently that's just like what you need for fucking tic-tac-toe.
Oh, that's a different program. That's Python. Tic-tac-toe was,
Yeah.
I think. Let me just see.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Game
Yeah.
choices, well, true. And
Yeah.
see, everything in this whole thing was all ifs and else, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it's
just-
a lot less, it's a lot more, you can think about what the code is doing
Yeah.
than the object-oriented stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, like, when you were talking about doing this, I was like, you should learn Python first. Because, like, Java's fucking weird, man. Java, and it's so picky about, like, types. You have to say, like, what type every fucking thing is. Let's go.
One, and now you pick the row, so now you gotta pick a column.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you're gonna put your X in, and I'll go 2 and 2.
You've lost.
Y. 3 and 3.
You can't win.
You can't win when you do that?
You can't win. No. Oh, wait, maybe neither of us can win, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so I'll go 3 and 1.
Yeah, and then I'll go, wait, pick a row. Oh, fuck. One. Wait, is it 1, 3 or?
1, 3, if you want that top corner.
Oh, that top. Yeah. Yeah.
So now you win.
I win because you picked in the middle. Yeah.
That's the worst first pick.
Yeah.
Because no matter where I go now, you've got two.
I've got the other option. Yeah. So the meta for tic-tac-toe is you have to go in the corners.
Yeah.
So I played first, so I went in the corner. Your meta pick, I think, is to go into
The opposite corner.
the opposite corner.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, it's got to be, right?
Player X wins. Game over.
How do I play again?
We'd have to run it again.
What's
then.
it called? Python
Project 6-5.
Okay, project 6-5.py. That's not gonna work. I don't know how fucking Python works.
Project 6. Oh, space 6-5.
Oh, okay. Let me try.
Try it again. Try it again. Project space 6-5. No, that was 6.5. Hang on.
Oh, it was 6.5. Okay, let me try one more.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
One more time.
No, don't do that.
Do I need .py?
But you can't put the backslash in there.
Why not?
Project 6-5. That's it. Just try that.
Oh, okay. Well, one more time. Wait, one more time. I should know how to do this shit. Like, I should know how to run a fucking Python script from fucking command line. No. See, it's just not working. So wait, how did it do it? Restart.
Accelerated software.
Oh, okay. I just needed to. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we
So
probably
if I
weren't
go
in the right
first, right? If I
direction.
go first, I go 1-1.
And then I should go 3-3.
Yeah, and now I go. Well, like I would then, I guess, take the middle. No, I can't take the middle. I need to just take another corner. So 1-3, and then
And then
you
I gotta take 1,
no,
2.
yeah, 1-2, and then I have to take. Well, I guess I'll just take the other corner. So
3-1.
And now you have to take 3 or 2-1.
I've got to take
Right.
2-1 to keep you from going.
Yeah, and now there's no way for either of us to win.
Well, you just won.
Oh,
You go center. 2-2.
Oh, I go center.
Because I didn't put one in the center, you just go 2-2. And you win again.
I know there's a way. I know there's a way for fucking the tie, right? Like I just gotta figure this out.
Oh, I know. I know how to make a tie. We're just playing meta. You go. 1-1. All right,
So
I'm
you
gonna
you
go
tie by going center then, right?
2-1. Let's just see what happens. Where you going? 1 and 3. So now I gotta go 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I just go 3 and 1. Oh wait, that was kind of a mistake.
3 and
I meant to go
1.
the other corner, 3-3.
But either way, now
Yeah.
you can win. No
No,
matter.
well I can't win because now here you can just go
right,
2-2.
now I go 2-2.
All right, and now I go.
You gotta go 2-3 to
Oh no,
stop.
you win now because I
Now
fucked
I
up.
win,
Yeah,
yeah.
I fucked up. Yeah.
So the only way to get a tie is to put one in the middle first. Run module 2-2, and then take up the first corner,
And
And
fight
then-
over corners.
and then fight over corners. You went 1 and 3, so I'll go 3 and 3.
Oh well, you're supposed to go 3 and 1, but
Yeah. Either way,
we're bad at tying tic
I've
tac
had
toe.
I've had a tie a couple times, but yeah, I'm gonna stop recording now too, right?
Now they know how bad we are at tic tac toe. Your whole stream knows. We've been exposed.